Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. We're about to dissect the train wreck that was Kamala Harris on Fox News, the vice president who wants to take over the Oval Office in a display of verbal gymnastics that would make even the most seasoned politician blush, managed to dodge more questions than a professional boxer. From border security to the economy, Harris tap danced around every tough question like her political life depended on it, and folks, it just might. So stay tuned as we unpack this disaster and what it means for the Biden administrations, as well as the Harris campaign's crumbling credibility. Now, folks, while Kamala Harris struggles to maintain her political appearance, let's talk about something that actually improves with age. I'm talking about your skin. After 20, your body produces 12% less collagen each decade. That's why I swear by this magic secret powder. It's not just any collagen supplement. It combines the top 5 critical types for skin health. It's designed to reduce visible signs of aging and promote that youthful glow we all crave. Get it today at 51% off at healthwithgary.com. Plus, you got free VIP coaching, an ebook, and a 60-day guarantee. That's healthwithgary.com. You'll find the link in the description below. Now, the train wreck that was the Kamala Harris interview on Fox. I posted it to my X account. If you're not following me on X, why aren't you following me on X? Get over there after the show and follow me on X. Now, you can watch it in full, but the reactions were swift immediately after that interview. The mainstream media went into full damage control mode, and the keyword language they were using was all in sync because they got their scripts from their masters somewhere. Probably the DNC handing out the talking points sheet on how to report on the disaster at Fox. You can see here, CNN. Kamala Harris spars with Fox News anchor in Testy interview. Business Insider. Kamala Harris defends economic plan in Testy Fox News interview. Harris interview with Fox News is marked by testy exchanges. VP Harris gets testy in Fox News interview. AP Harris interview with Fox News is marked by testy exchanges. Yeah, so that's the language that they're choosing to use. That it was a testy exchange. Notice how they don't say that she was defensive. They don't say that Brett Baer was aggressive. They just say the whole exchange was testy. Who was testy? Right? Well, Kamala was certainly not happy. Now, at the end of the interview, we got clips for it, and I got a lot of reaction. I've got Don Jr.'s reaction. I got Eric Trump's reaction. I think we've got Trump's reaction. We've got all the different reactions from all corners of the MAGA sphere. But this is Brett Baer following that interview. And the interview ended really weirdly. Normally, it's just like a clean break, but you could tell something was wrong. And he explains after. Listen.
People. Dana, you've been on the other side. You've been on the rapper as a press secretary interviewing a president. And, you know, I'm talking like 4 people waving their hands like it's got to stop. So, Martha, final. Yeah, I had to dismount there at the end. There's so many things, and she maybe should do more of these.
Madam Vice President,
and
they're giving me a hard rap
here.
Well,
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dana, you've been on the other side.
So I apologize for the grainy footage. We're having some bandwidth issues today.
Saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump. You call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room. And he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Right? Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After
is.
George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand.
Ever since
Look at that face, man. She is just terrified, deflecting, and full of deception. It was on full display during that interview. Jack Posobiec, how is the world viewing the Kamala Harris campaign, and specifically last night's interview, talking with Dr. Jonathan Turley? Listen.
The 85.
How is the world viewing the Kamala Harris campaign and specifically this interview?
It's an embarrassment. I mean, I'm not even going to candy call it. It's an absolute embarrassment. We have to understand that 85% of the world's population is turning its back on us at this point. It's been doing it ever since the Harris-Biden administration came in. You know, at the beginning of the 20th century, the West was 30% of the world's population. By 2050, they're estimating will be no more than 10% of the world's population. The world is moving away from us, and they're looking more like economic unions like BRICS Plus, particularly with the addition of the OPEC nations. They're seeing that really as the future. I don't think we recognize how much our corruption and our sort of moral degeneracy is actually used as propaganda against us. And I'm not even saying outside of Europe. You go to Eastern Europe, you go to Central Europe, particularly Viktor Orban of Hungary, Law and Justice Party of Poland. They point fingers at us and say, do we want to be like that? Absolutely not. So I don't think we recognize just how weak we look in the eyes of so much of the world. And obviously the world is reflecting that now with all the chaos.
And it's also laughing in our face because we have a president who's knocking on death's door and a woman who's ready to open that door and walk into the Oval Office who can't even spar with Bret Baier. Now, there was a moment during the interview when Kamala says, "You and I both know what I'm talking about." And he's like, no, I don't. I mean, that was solid gold. That was a great moment. Jonathan Turley, the previous guy was Stephen Turley. I got them confused. Forgive me. One of the most interesting aspects of the interview was the purely pedestrian view of the presidency that Harris presented in it. Harris repeatedly responded with, "I will follow the law," while refusing to answer questions on her positions. Yeah. I thought this was funny too. There isn't a man alive who doesn't know this feeling. Look at Kamala, like, just off her hinges, and Bret Baier's just like, okay, sigh. All right, when are you gonna finish screaming at me, right? Here we have more information. We're going to get some more reactions to Kamala's lost ground in key voting blocks. Yeah, this is bad news. This is why they're trotting her out to these desperate interviews.
This woman, why she came to Fox.
There are a lot of Democrats, independents who watch that network, and there's a lot of undecided voters who watch that network. We, in this campaign, believe that like being on Fox and getting our message out through Fox is an important piece of the puzzle.
Well, they finally spoke the truth and gave us credit for having the most diverse audience, because that is the truth. New Fox polling shows Kamala Harris has lost ground among key voting blocs. Biden actually won in 2020. Black Americans, Latinos, women, and there are many that have been strategizing by the campaign when it came to the interview itself.
We also have, here is J.D. Vance torching Kamala Harris. His reaction to the Fox News interview.
Your decisions.
She is, of course, the deciding vote in trillions of dollars of Joe Biden's spending. She bragged about being the last person in the room when major decisions were made. But we have to sort of step back and appreciate there is something pathological going on here. She has been in power for 3.5 years. And when asked about how she would be different, she goes and talks about Donald Trump. And when when it's pointed out, well, you've actually been in office for 3.5 years, she says, well, he's been talking about politics for 10 years. What is it in the mind of this person that can't just acknowledge that she has been in power for 3.5 years and bears some responsibility as the sitting vice president for the condition that the country is in? Now, she could do any number of things. She could actually say, well, I think that things are a little bit better than you're giving me credit for. Or she could say, well, this wasn't totally my fault. Instead, she pretends that Donald Trump bears the responsibility for problems that happened while she was the sitting vice president. She does that about the border. She does that about the affordability of groceries. She does that about the chaos on the world stage. I've never seen a person who's running for president as the sitting vice president who pretends that she has nothing to do with the condition of the country she's been governing.
It's because she is gaslighting the American people. Now, here's a perfect side-by-side comparison that Tim Murtaugh posted. Watch this. This is solid gold.
Population.
So are they misguided, the 50%? Are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid.
So is Kamala misguided?
Yeah. So what do you say, Kamala? You'd never say that? Oh, wait a minute. Here's a clip. More deception. Here's Don Jr.
Place. She agreed with all of the policies that got us to this disastrous place. So they had to put her out there, and it's not working. If she can't do 20 minutes with Bret Baier, how's she going to do against Vladimir Putin? How's she going to do against the mullahs in Iran? How's she going to do against Xi or North Korea or any of the other enemies of America, any of the other enemies of freedom around the world? She's going to get steamrolled. This is not a competent person that can handle this. She got unhinged in a very basic interview. Our enemies would love a Kamala Harris presidency. They are rooting for it like you've never seen. There's a reason Iran is trying to kill my father. And it's not because they want him to be president. It's because they understand that Kamala Harris's weakness is a huge benefit to all of our adversaries all over the world. She
I don't understand
with all of the policies.
Think about what he just said there. There's a reason Iran wants to kill his father. It's because they know that if Kamala Harris is elected, we have an even weaker America than we have under Joe Biden. I could not envision Kamala Harris sitting across a table from some of the most dangerous world leaders who would love to just throw threats out all day long. What would she do? She would crumble under the pressure. And so would this country. Here's more from Don Jr.
Became unhinged. Disaster for her. She became unhinged. They're pulling her early because she got angry and couldn't answer even basic questions. She didn't just fail with Bret Baier. She failed on The View, Jesse, last week.
That's right.
Imagine how bad you have to be as a Democrat to go on The View and basically commit political suicide. She doesn't have it. Americans understand that. She'll tell you whatever you need to hear to get that vote, but she is the daughter of a Marxist professor. She is a radical San Francisco liberal. She has been in charge for 3.5 years because she's not just a vice president. She's a vice president to the most absentee president in the history of the United States, someone who has spent over 40% of his time on the beach in Delaware and, not to mention the dementia. She could have done any one of these things over the last 3.5 years, yet she did none of them. Why wait? Is she going to wait till day one on January 20th? Americans are suffering. Inflation is killing us. Wars are breaking out all over the world. Iran is endorsing her. Vladimir Putin is endorsing her because they understand that a weak America is good for Iran. A weak America is good for China. A weak America is good for Russia. She's not going to...
Yeah. We cannot afford. This country's over if she gets into office. And now we've got Laura Ingraham talking to Doug Schoen, asking the question, do you think this interview helped her at all?
Don't think it.
Do you think this interview helped her at all, marginally, or not at all?
I don't think it helped at all. I think she felt she'd reach some swing voters. But to me, the absence of clear answers, the real sense of, confusion to perfectly logical questions that Brett asked, to me, suggests that it underscored all the issues and concerns the few undecided swing voters have. Don't think it helped a bit, and it may well hurt her.
It may have well hurt her. Well, yeah, going on Fox, not a good look for her. But her campaign's in freak-out mode. Where is that clip here? Okay, so we got Laura Ingraham. We've also got Eric Trump reaction as well. Let's listen to Eric.
If border security all over the place, then she gets out that, yes, border security is very important to me. If border security was so important to you, why did you fly 320,000 people on private planes into airports all across the country in the middle of the night? If border security was so important to you, why did you sell the border wall, meaning the slats of steel, right, that my father had built? Why did you sell it for scrap metal to the lowest bidder, right? Why did you sell off the wall? If border security was so important to you, why did you turn off all the security cameras that are on these massive poles 100 yards behind the wall, so that people couldn't see the invasion that's happening at the southern border, right?
Yeah, suddenly she cares about the southern border. Now here's listen to this. This is Bret Baier discussing some of the behind-the-scenes antics that were taking place as they were scheduling the interview and waiting for Kamala Harris to show up.
And said, well, maybe, when the kicker in football, they call a timeout right before he's going to kick the field goal. They're icing the kicker. So we were supposed to start at 5 p.m. This was the time they gave us. Originally, we were going to do 25 or 30 minutes. They came in and said, well, maybe 20. So it was already getting whittled down. And then the vice president showed up about 5:15. We were pushing the envelope to be able to turn it around for the top of the 6 o'clock. So that's how it started. And I could tell when we started talking that she was going to be tough to redirect without me trying to interrupt. I did this with President Obama. At one point, I just said, Mr. President, I know you like the filibuster. I just didn't even have the chance to sometimes redirect in those ways. I had a lot of
other questions. Couldn't get to them. Some of those questions, like I said, I would like to hear. What about the plagiarism scandal? Right? What about touchdown Timmy allegations? What about all those things? Here is Kamala discussing the biggest threat to America, but then getting called out.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the number one threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, and then several hours on each occasion, that Iran posed a threat to Israel. I was there, most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself, and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that is, and my commitment to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's administration that Iran regime that we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision.
And there are a number of
I think we've made our decision, Kamala. I think everyone who watched that interview were heavily influenced. Here is Dana Perino weighing in.
Watch. So her answers are not going to pass the smell test with an audience who has watched loyally. We have more Republicans, Democrats, and independents than watch than any other news channel. And we have covered immigration since, well going back. I've been here 14 years. We always talk about it. And one of the things she does is she sandwiches in the bill she's talking about, which you clarified, and then the bill she says that Trump killed. In between those things is when you had the millions of people flooding into the country with no other reporter but Bill Malugin and Griff Jenkins down there at the border covering it. The story of a lifetime. And now people are dealing with that in not only in New York City, or not even just the border states, they're dealing with it in all the major cities. And they're dealing with increased housing costs and the problems with the schools and increasing crime. And what about the jobs? I mean, all of those things. Now, I just wonder if at some point, if acceptance is the first step of recovery, if she had ever said something like, we could have done a better job on the border. Just acknowledge it. Like, what would happen? Would the whole entire campaign fall apart? Because the majority of people think that Trump would be better on immigration.
Doesn't pass the smell test. And Kamala, she smells pretty bad. Here we have, this is great. This is a great exchange. Why is Trump beating you?
The 47th race. Why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk.
So are they misguided? The 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean.
Why?
Demean. Who's Trump demeaning? He's demeaning all the people who attack him, who've been attacking him with lawfare and phony investigations. I mean, come on. They claim that he doesn't speak for the people. He's only talking about himself. No, he's been pretty clear about how he's going to help the working men and women of America. Here's this. You know, she keeps talking about turning the page. I think we might get an answer.
And slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength.
Wait a minute, Kamala. Wasn't it Joe Biden? He gave that Dark Brandon speech where he demonized every single Trump supporter, essentially more than half of America. That was a pretty divisive speech from the commander-in-chief. And you're going to say that Trump's causing people to point fingers? No. We're going to point fingers at you, Kamala.
Leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
people
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president, one, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are
in slogan.
So the mainstream media in full damage control mode after that disastrous debate or disastrous interview. The term they're using, it was testy. I mean, the faces that she gave, clearly she was angry. I was literally like going through frame by frame and you could just see these just nasty faces that she was making this whole time. And she was so, she was angry, defensive. She was deflecting, redirecting. I think this really hurt her. And that's pretty much the broad consensus here from everybody who saw that debate. Now, what about you? How do you think she did? Kamala Harris is the woman who's supposed to be leading our country alongside Joe Biden. She's vying for the top office, but she can't even handle a simple interview without falling apart. Is this the kind of leadership America deserves? A vice president who can't answer basic questions about the state of our nation? It is time that we demand better. And better means Donald Trump. So I want to hear from you. What do you think was Kamala's biggest blunder in the interview? Maybe just showing up. Maybe just opening up her mouth, right? Sound off in the comments below.